Thank you. Hello, everyone from all over the place. Welcome. I appreciate you taking the time to come in and sit in on this talk here. I hope you find it valuable. I hope you find it informative, and I hope you can take away nuggets that you can apply today uh, to become the clutter-free family. So, welcome, welcome. The goal of today is to walk away with sort of a better understanding of why living in a clutter-free space, an organized space, a clean space, and I'm going to use all of those words sort of interchangeably, why that's so important and why it's important for your emotional health, your physical health, most importantly, your mental health, and not just yours, but those of your children as well. I'm talking to individuals or parents with young children, families with different age children. Everything we're talking about here applies to everyone. So understanding why that's important, but also understanding how you can get everyone on board with managing the house, taking care of the house without conflict and without you, the parent, having to do it all yourself. All right, so get ready. Give me a thumbs up or something if you are on board with learning some of those things. All right. So, who am I and why am I talking about this? Well, my name is Farnaz. I am a former classroom teacher, but I think once a teacher, always a teacher. Um, Over the years, I've taught different age groups. Started out in elementary school as an elementary school teacher, went to private school for a bit, and then I actually homeschooled my four boys for quite a few years. Um, I've owned, and I currently do own, a cleaning and organizing service. Uh, so whatever you think you have going on in your home, I promise you, I've seen it all. So I have some of that experience. And then from there, as being an owner of a residential cleaning service, I got to see a lot of behind the scenes of how people were living, and I noticed that there was a big gap between people who had beautiful homes, well-intentioned, but were missing the step of teaching their children and their families how to get on board with maintaining the home. And eventually, women, for the most part, we're working and we're doing all the things, but at the end of the day, more often than not, we're responsible for the home, taking care of the home as well. And I realize that, people need to, people are missing important, there's important life skills and there are important benefits of teaching their families how to get on board as well. And it led me to creating the Clutter Free Family, where not only do we help declutter and organize, but we held workshops and classes where families can get on board and learn how to work together to maintain their home, create a sanctuary space for themselves and their families. All right. So hopefully you are all on board with that and excited to learn more about that. And here we go. So I'd love to ask the first question is, how many of you feel frustrated? Do you find yourself coming home from work, finding the house in disarray, and it seems like no one else is kind of paying attention to the very obvious things that you think need to be put away? Uh, Perhaps you're always finding yourself nagging and yelling about the same things. Clean your room, fix your bed, pick your toys up, put this away, empty the dishwasher, right? You're not alone. We all find ourselves in that situation too often of a time. And then unfortunately what happens is moms, a lot of times, but with respect, dads as well, the parents will end up doing the chores themselves, maintaining the house themselves, which is fine for some part, but can often lead to frustration and even a little bit of resentment as kids get older and nothing seems to be changing. Does that resonate with anyone? I'm going to try to open the chat here and see if I can peek in to see. All right. Well, feel free. Or, yeah, somebody just said redoing what everyone else has already done. That's a big one, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on. Um, I want you to pause for a second and think about the time when you actually moved into your space that you're living in now. And what did you I want you to think back of like what you imagined the house to look like. What did you imagine each room to feel like? You know, you had a vision. We're all very excited when we move into the first home, apartment, whatever it is. But think about how you wanted that to be back then and think about where you are now. Were you able to fulfill and keep that house with that vision that you had in mind? Or have areas kind of gotten out of control for you? We're going to try to work towards making those areas, those spaces in your home, get back to what you initially intended them to be. All right. So let's keep moving. Okay. So if you are feeling frustrated about any of these type of things, there's a secret that you should know. Your frustration and your anxiety are all related. When you create clutter-free spaces, the stress that you have when you come into the home or when you think about those spaces, garage, the attic, the basement, those closets, that junk drawer, they're all related in causing some anxiety and stress to happen. When family cooperates with chores without nagging, that is related to making the home a sanctuary and keeping it a place where everyone is sort of doing their part. I'm going to try to get this out of the way. A clean, organized, decluttered home. And again, I'm using all of those words sort of interchangeably, although they are distinct, but we're going to use them all kind of the same for right now. A clean, organized home leads to better focus, better concentration, completing tasks, allowing us to leave the craziness of the world, right? And all the things that are bombarding us from the world and come to a place where we feel at ease. I'm going to teach you a word right now. It's a it's a word that I found it's an Arabic word called sukoon. I don't know how you spell it in English necessarily, but Sukhoon, sukoon. And what that really means is this idea of coming home and just taking a deep breath. And like the home is sort of hugging you when you arrive. You've gotten away from the chaos of the outside world, and it's your safe haven. I'm going to use safe haven and sanctuary probably a lot throughout the talk. But the idea of sukoon is what we initially want from our homes, what we innately want from our homes. And when it's too cluttered and too disorganized, those piles of clutter and that disorganization speaks to you and takes away that sukoon, that calmness, that contentment that we seek when we get into our houses. So let's try to work on fixing that. But let me start by asking first, take a look. Hold on. Why isn't this moving? Okay. Take a look at this picture. So in the chat, feel free to leave comments, if you will, about what does the picture to the left, on the left, make you feel? What are some words that come to mind? Please feel free to share that. Uncomfortable, stressed, overwhelmed, anxious. Exactly. All of these things. Chaotic, for sure. Now, just give me a hands up or a yes if you know of someone in your family or a relative or whoever who actually lives in this kind of space. Okay? That would run me crazy. Now look at the picture to the right. Things are picked up. What kind of things, what kind of words come to mind when you see the picture to the right? Serenity, calm, peaceful, perfect. Number 2 is the goal, but number 1 is overwhelming. Exactly. All of these things. Guys, nobody opens their Pinterest and pins pages that look like the chaotic room to the left, right? We all pin the pages that are organized and neat and clutter-free. Why is that? Let me introduce you to another word here. There is something innately about humans that goes towards calm, clean, organized spaces. You've heard before somebody say, probably a teenager who says, I don't mind the mess. I'm okay with the mess, right? The fact of the matter is, maybe for a second, but overall, human beings are not made to live in that sort of chaotic sort of situation. And what I mean by that is, sorry guys, bear with me with my technology. Okay, taking you to this page here. How many of you know what this is an image of? Have you all seen pictures like this before? Okay, Danielle. Um, this is actually a picture of the pilgrimage to Mecca that Muslims make every year. Okay. And the picture on the left shows like literally thousands, even millions at times, of people going to this space. What kind of words come to mind when you see a picture like that with all those people around the Kaaba, that black box? Any words come to mind? Anxious, chaotic? Yeah, right? Too much. Absolutely, Danielle. Too much. That's what happens. And that's what happens when everyone is gathered all around. But then the picture on the right shows what happens when it's time to pray and they all line up in exactly the way they're supposed to, the way they're supposed to. How does that make you feel? What kind of words come to mind when you see the organized people, beautiful, structured peace? Yeah, I show you this just like the other picture before. I show you this because it is part of our inner being. It is part of our humanity to want order, not chaos. Okay? There's a word called fitra. Every major religion in the world has it, and I'm not going to talk deeply about religion by any means, but every major religion has some component of order and cleanliness and something to that effect. Your fitra is an Arabic word that means your innate, the way we are meant to be, sort of, I guess is a good definition. It's your innate humanness, if you will. All right. So it is not something that is only for certain type of people to live in a clean, organized way. As humans, this is what we strive for. This is what we need. So when you have those people in the family saying, I don't mind the mess, I don't mind the chaos, they would not mind the order. What? They would not mind the order more, if you will. The order is what we're all striving for. All right. Questions, comments? Can you spell it? Fitra, I think Fitrah. Fitra. You can look it up. It has actually a really beautiful meaning when you go deeper. I just sort of gave you the surface level there. So that is hopefully a little bit of an example of why it is that talking about decluttering and getting organized and living in a clean space is something that is innate within us. Let's move on. So as I mentioned to you earlier, um, living in a space that is clean and organized. Kate, is my little chat box here covering anything? Can you just tell me yes or no? Okay. All right. No, perfect. Okay. So your home, I want you to look at your home as not just the place where you live, but the thing that impacts you the most in terms of your emotional health, your physical health, your mental health. It's the most expensive thing we pay for, pretty much for most of us, right? The most expensive thing we take our time to, and the place that we spend the most time in. It is worth our time to focus on making it a better place. In today's world, we hear about the mental health crisis in all aspects of life, in all age ranges of life, from the older citizens, older adults that we have in the world, all the way down to our kids. The word mental health, or the idea of mental health, comes up throughout. I'm here to ask you, have we ever thought about our home as the lowest hanging fruit on how to help our mental health? The lowest hanging fruit. It's the easiest way to make a change, to make a difference in how we feel. Think about that for a minute. For moms, especially, you know, we juggle a lot. And again, men, I absolutely know that it's on your plate too. But how many of you have heard of like spaghetti noodles in our brains. Our brains are just sort of always thinking about all the different things that are going on. We're juggling home, we're juggling work, we're juggling kids, we're juggling what's for dinner, what's happening on the weekend, all of this stuff. Doing that in a place where you can sit quietly without the distractions and without the energy that's coming from all the things around you in your home is completely it's really important to think about, right? Let's talk about the energy for a second. Everything in our home has some sort of energy. And I'm not a woo-woo person necessarily, but you know as well as I that when it's time to find something in that junk drawer of yours, that junk drawer, you know that that screwdriver is in the junk drawer, but who wants to go digging in that junk drawer when it's time to actually have to use it, right? There is an energy that happens behind that closet door that's a mess. Yes, you can close it, but you know it's there. You know the chaos is there behind that closed door. You know that you may not want to go into the basement, but you know the basement may be decluttered full and disorganized. There is an energy that's coming off of that. On the opposite side, think about the energy that's released when you have your home nice and clean, when everything is put away. There's just a different feeling that's evoked from that. All of these things help with our mental health, help with our overall well-being. And adults in the room here, it works on you, but imagine how much it works for children. You're rarely going to go to a classroom and see that the classroom for the kids is all chaotic and upside down, right? Everything has a place there. All of this helps with our mental health. Thinking of our home as a way to manage our health is the lowest hanging fruit, in my opinion, and something sadly really overlooked. Let's talk more. How are we doing here? Oh, Kelsey, 100%. We get our houses together for others, but we don't necessarily do it for ourselves. How many of you have experienced that? And how many of you afterwards are like, gosh darn it, I should be living like this myself, keeping it nice and clean. There you go. Yeah, that's kind of frustrating. But it's a fact, unfortunately. So the question is, how do families become clutter-free, clean, organized, all of the rest of it? How do you find the time when after school there's a sports thing that you have to go to? You've got to take them here, you've got to take them there, or you're just tired yourself when you get home from work. How do you have the energy to maintain the home? How can you get everyone to maintain the home together? That's a big one, isn't it? In my years in the residential cleaning service, it was amazing to me how people were not encouraging their children to get on board and take care of their own spaces. It, it was kind of amazing, actually. One of the reasons that they may not ask them is because of the nagging and the conflict that sometimes happens when you try to get other people on board. There is a way to address that. We'll talk about that for sure. Um, but it it is something that people are able to overcome. Um, and believe it or not, working, performing better at work and at school are also side effects that can happen from maintaining and getting everyone on board to have a clean, organized space. So let's figure this out. All right. So in my business, I have what I call the clutter free family approach. We decide, prioritize, set the stage, communicate, and patiently practice. And we're going to go in and kind of deep dive with all of these different steps. Um, One thing I tell people off the bat is think of this as a project. Think of this as a new project that you want to start doing. Know that your patience will be tested in sometimes, but also know that it's worth the effort to get the family on board or get yourself in a situation where you want to live in a clutter-free space. Okay, so let's break it down. The first step I always tell people is that they need to decide. They need to make a decision that they are going to make a change and that they are going to get the family on board to make this change. Now, the good news is if you're a mom, once a mom makes a decision about something, most of the time she's going to get it done. The bad news is that, like I said before, your patience will be tested at some points, and you may feel like you're taking a step forward and then two steps back. But as long as you're moving forward, slowly but surely, it'll be worth it at the end. Got to keep your eye on the prize and decide that, you know what, tackling the home, your biggest investment, the place that you and your family spend almost the most amount of time, is worth making it that safe haven, that sanctuary that you want to come home to. All right. And think about this as you're making this decision, or if you're on the fence and you're like, I don't know if I'm ready to commit yet. A clutter free space helps regulate your emotions, helps regulate your kids' emotions. Um, it encourages them to use the things and encourages you to use the actual things that you have in the house instead of having them tucked away and not knowing where things are. You're actually able to use the things. And by reducing the clutter, you're reducing the stress, the overstimulation of colors and all of the other things that may be surrounding you, the clutter, all of those things. When you decide that you want to declutter, you are actually removing a lot of the stress out of your life, the visual stress. A study was found in 2009 that the levels of cortisol, the stress hormone, were higher in mothers whose homes were cluttered. And the clutter leads to, well, I'd like you to, in your chat, would you mind just writing in how many items do you think the average American home contains, has in it? How many things do we have in our home? Just give me a little number in the chat if you will. I'm just interested. Thousands, thousands. Any other guesses? 5,000. All right. Give it another second. Anybody else want to wager? 60,000, 250,000. Okay, we're getting the big numbers now. There was a study that showed that the average American home has 300,000 items in it. Now, if you live in a lovely mansion that can contain 300,000 items, then high five. But for the most part, most of us live in modest spaces. But the fact of the matter is, 300,000 items is the average. How could that, of course, that can get clutterful. Of course, that can become disorganized and be overwhelming to people. All right. When we make a decision that we want to make a change, it'll be time to address those things. And with the first step that I want to talk to you guys about, we're going to break down the decision process because it's not just, okay, I made the decision. There are little micro steps within that decision making. The first thing is, I want you to stop buying anything. While you're going through this process of trying to declutter, I want you to stop buying, okay? When you stop buying, you're not bringing, other than the necessities, you're not bringing the extras into the house. You don't need the tchotchkes. You don't need all the other little fun things that are out there. How many of you have actually seen this documentary called Buy Now? Has anyone seen it? It's an important, good, Brandy has seen it. It's an important step or a great step to encourage you to stop buying, but also to see what you're buying is actually doing. And the other reasons I want people to watch this is because I want to be able to say, you know what, give yourself a little bit of grace. Give yourself a little bit of a breather about how much is being brought into the home. All right. You may not have 300,000 things, but you have enough things in the house that's kind of making you stressed out. When you watch this documentary, you're going to find that we, average Americans, are inundated with, buy this is on sale, discount, the latest this, the latest that. Everyone loves going to Home Goods and TJ Maxx. They're very fun, lovely things that are in Home Goods and TJ Maxx, right? But the fact of the matter is, this documentary exposes how much extra stuff the big box stores are producing. The Dollar Tree, how much that's producing. we're being they're producing way more than we need. And what happens then is we take those things home, and where do they end up soon after? Well, if they're not ending up in the trash or in your attic or your basement, they're ending up at thrift stores and other places like that. And then what are the thrift stores doing? Well, they may actually turn you away. Anybody remember around COVID how thrift stores were being inundated with people cleaning things out and they were actually throwing things away? Well, the other place that those items go, those inexpensive clothing items, they're all of the little holiday, things or the freebie things that we get so much of, promotional items. What happens to those things is oftentimes they get thrown in bins and they get shipped to other places around the world. Now, I know there was a time, I think, where we felt like we were doing a good thing by letting things go to other parts of the world, because other parts of the world, they can use our t-shirts and our whatever sneakers and other items. But then again, when you watch this show, you're going to learn that when they get to those other countries, the people there are like, "Hey, hold on. We don't have this many humans to use all of the things that you guys are sending," and they end up on their beaches, they end up in their landfill or other areas where they're just overwhelmed with them. Ditto with electronics, ditto with plastics, ditto with shoes and t-shirts and all the rest of it. So I encourage you to watch this show. It is really eye-opening, and it'll help you with the stop buying part of the making the decision to be decluttered and organized. All right. I cannot drive by Goodwill and not stop. It's just rude. Listen, stop at Goodwill, stop at the thrift store, walk around, look at things, and but for the time period of you're focusing on this particular project, have a pause, take a pause. And if you must be compelled to find something, then you let something else go. We'll talk more about that in a second. All right. So the next step, the next thing I want you to understand when you're in this whole step one decision-making process is releasing the growth, or not releasing, but getting the growth versus the fixed mindset. Does anyone know what that is? Anyone ever heard of the growth versus fixed mindset? Hold on, let me try to navigate this whole thing here. Um, so the fixed mindset is basically this idea of I can't stop shopping. It's a period at the end of that. Or I'm the only one in the house who ever does anything. Nobody ever helps. Or I've tried everything, nothing works. Or there's too much stuff. I can't tackle it. I can't get rid of it. All right. That's all a fixed mindset of putting a full stop at the end and allowing no room for change. The growth mindset, on the other hand, exactly, Kelsey, can't versus can try. The growth mindset is the idea of possibilities can happen. I haven't learned or I haven't figured out how to clean out the basement yet. I haven't figured out how to get the family involved with doing the chores and helping out yet. Just that three-letter word at the end allows for possibilities, allows for things to actually change, right? I would love for you to adopt that. I want you to say that to yourself. It's a really simple but powerful way to make a change. Apply it to anything, actually, fitness, eating better, all the rest. But releasing the fixed mindset and opening up to the idea of a growth mindset. Teaching this to your children is super powerful as well. It can be applied, like I said, to their schoolwork, to the things that they struggle with. Very, very important to do. All right. So we're letting go of the fixed mindset. Next is, all right. So as is any decision, the way to make a change basically involves approaching it in a different manner. So if trying to get other family members to get on board with doing chores and maintaining the house has been a struggle in the past, a growth mindset will say, all right, we haven't figured out the best way to do it yet, but I'm open to learning. Okay. Uh, Fantastic. Kelsey, that yet thing really makes a difference. When you establish a conflict-free approach, I want you to think back to other big things that you've introduced to your house. Some may have Sunday night dinner is a must, or, everyone has to sit down for Sunday night dinner. There are challenges that come with that, but it's an important enough value in your home that you've decided that no, that's non-negotiable. Everyone has to be there for Sunday night dinner, right? You have made it when you make something a family value and make it important enough, you're gonna, figure out a way to do it without conflict, without any kind of, sorry, I lost my train of thought. Here's the thing. Establishing something without conflict, if you have older children, teenagers, preteens, yeah, it's going to be a little bit challenging. Remember back in the beginning, I said that your patience may be tested when starting this whole project. But if you can start this whole idea of being decluttered, helping out around the house when the kids are young, that's gold. That's gold right there. Just the same way you sat down with them and helped them tie their shoe and taught them how to eat with a fork and taught them how to brush your teeth because you knew it was important enough for them later on and you didn't want to be doing that for the rest of your life. Teaching the young ones especially how to get involved with the house and give them chores and so forth is vital. With the preteens and the teens, it's also super important. We'll talk more about how to communicate with them in a couple more slides, but don't give up on it. The life skills, the executive functioning skills that they learn by doing things around the house is something that will carry through with them for the rest of their lives. So don't miss out on that. And one of the reasons I'm talking about this so much is because you guys will not believe the comment sections on some social media posts when I talk about, hey, encourage your kids to do chores or, age appropriate chores. The comment section comes back with, let those kids be kids. It's not their responsibility to clean up our house. Okay, but just know that by not encouraging them to do that, whether it's because you don't want the conflict or because you want to do it yourself, they're missing out on a lot of life skills, a lot of valuable skills that can carry through for a long, long time. We'll talk more about that. All right. So that was step one, was to make a decision. Step two is to plan and prioritize. All right. I'm walking you step by step on how to do this. I encourage people to get a piece of paper in front of you and sit there and write down, where do you want to start? What tasks need to be done every day to keep the house in order? What tasks have to happen so that the house runs smoothly? The dishes need to be put away. The table needs to be cleared. Towels from the bathroom need to be hung up and so forth. And beds need to be made. All right. Make a list of all of the things that need to be done and prioritize which ones are the most important. That's for daily maintenance. When it comes to decluttering and getting the house organized, what spaces in your home cause you the most anxiety or stress? I often tell people to start with their bedroom. That's a big, that's a great place to start. In fact, let me move over to the next slide. I want to share a little video with you all. This may be something that you've seen before, but take a listen to this. When I say plan and prioritize and start with your bedroom, Brandy seems to agree with that. Take a listen.
To me, basic SEAL training was a lifetime
Yes?
of challenges crammed into 6 months. So here are the 10 lessons
Are we all good now?
I learned from basic SEAL training that hopefully will be of value to you as you move forward in life. Every morning in SEAL training, my instructors, who at the time were all Vietnam veterans, would show up in my barracks room, and the first thing they'd do was inspect my bed. If you did it right, the corners would be square, the covers would be pulled tight, the pillow centered just under the headboard, and the extra blanket folded neatly at the foot of the rack. It was a simple task, mundane at best, but every morning we were required to make our bed to perfection. It seemed a little ridiculous at the time, particularly in light of the fact that we were aspiring to be real warriors, tough, battle-hardened SEALs. but the wisdom of this simple act has been proven to me many times over. If you make your bed every morning, you will have accomplished the first task of the day. It will give you a small sense of pride, and it will encourage you to do another task, and another, and another. And by the end of the day, that one task completed will have turned into many tasks completed. Making your bed will also reinforce the fact that the little things in life matter. If you can't do the little things right, you'll never be able to do the big things right. And if by chance you have a miserable day, you will come home to a bed that is made, that you made. And a made bed gives you encouragement that tomorrow will be better. So if you want to change the world, start off by making your bed.
Okay, guys, were you able to hear, I hope?
Thank you very much.
Okay, hold on, sir. Hold on.
Thank you.
Okay. How do I
Well,
get
thank you,
him to-
President Powers,
Oh, Lordy.
Provost Fenves, deans, members of the faculty, family and friends, and most importantly, the class of...
Kelsey, let me see if I can get this guy to stop talking.
No problem. If you have a separate window open with that video playing, just close that window and pull your slides back up.
Oh. You guys, I promise you, I practiced this so many times. Hold on, getting him out of here. There we go. All right. Okay. Are we all okay now? Thank you for your patience. Kelsey did say something about this is like family here, and everybody's really easy peasy, and it's okay if we have little fubs with technology. So, back to step 2, though. Plan and prioritize. Which areas do you want to start with? I wanted to share that video because starting with your bedroom is something that I feel is super important as well. You start your day there, you end your day there. The energy of the room, ideally, should be comfortable and serene and tranquil, not clothes cluttered in the corner on the chair and that closet, even though you may be able to close the door, maybe that closet, has chaos behind it, your chest of drawers, your side tables full of things, and your bed, of course. That could be...
Your slides back up. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Are the slides not up?
No, we can see your screen, but not the slides currently.
Oh, boy. Share. Let's see here. How's that?
There you go. Great.
Okay, thanks, guys. Thanks. Okay, so yeah, get a piece of paper out, plan and prioritize. After you've written a list of which spaces you want to tackle, I want you to go back on that list. And if there's others in your family, your children, your spouse, whoever else lives with you, write down their names on the things that they should be able to handle. I have a whole talk on the playroom. Raise your hand if you have sacrificed your formal dining room and turned it into a playroom for your children. That's today or at some point in time. Know that those kiddos, although they've been blessed with toys on all 4 corners there, if they can bring you the toys or if they can take them out, they should be able to take them back. So write their names down next to picking up toys. The trick is they need to know where everything goes, and we'll talk about that. Claudia mentions the craft room, and I think somebody else mentioned that the craft room can be their culprit as well. I'm going to teach you one little trick that I think might be able to help you with that craft room. But if that's the place that you want to prioritize, fantastic. Start with the place that gives you the most anxiety or the most stressed. All right, Amy, you're already ahead of me there. That's absolutely correct. All right, so planning and prioritizing how you want to tackle the house. All right, let's get him out of the way. No, there we go. All right. Step 3 is to set the stage. And what I mean by that is, once you've decided that you want to declutter, you want to get organized, you want to get everyone on board, recognize, does everything have a space? Does Do your children know where everything in their room should go? Yes, I know that there are parents who are like, "Oh, let the kids have their freedom to, you know, make their rooms as they want to." That's totally fine, but that still means that, making sure that every item that they have, every item that you have should have a space to be kept. Raise your hand if mail is a culprit for you. Mail is something that might get in your way. All right. We don't even get that much junk mail anymore, guys. We don't even, it wasn't like back in the day when we got mounds and mounds of junk mail, but even the mail that we get today, people talk to me about their piles of mail, regardless of socioeconomic level or the big or small house, mail seems to come up. But a simple solution for that is just to have a designated space. You don't need a formal table, a mail table, a corner, a spot that has everything you need in that spot where you set the stage to deal with the mail. Invest or buy yourself a little um, what is that called? Envelope opener. I know that there's a better name for that. Paper slicer, envelope opener, right? Invest in something as simple as that, and it makes the experience of dealing with your mail just a little more pleasurable. Have a recycling bin right there next to it where the envelopes go, letter opener. Thank you very much, Shannon. Yes, letter opener. I've used that a million times, but I lost it for a second. Having pen and paper or a little bin right there next to you where bills, open the bills, put them right there. Envelope with all the miscellaneous extra things that they send to you, put that in the recycling bin right away. Things that you know you're not going to look at. You don't need every single one of these politicians' postcards that they sent. Put that in the recycling bin right away. Things that you think that, okay, I do need to look at, make a separate pile for them and give yourself a time limit of it within a week, this needs to be taken care of. The point is, for some, that's going to be easier because maybe you don't get that much mail, but for others, it might be a little bit of a extra time that needs to be spent. But the point is to make a station where you deal with that. Make a station where this is where my purse goes. This is where my keys go. Non-negotiable. Have a garbage can by the mailbox by the front door. Absolutely, Amy, whatever works best for you is what you need to create. And you need to assign the spaces that nothing else goes there. Now, this takes practice and this takes a little bit of, figuring out. But the figuring out, when you create places, like the bullet point says, when you create places and systems that make sense for not just you, but your family, it's easier to uh, make those practices happen where you can have things in their exact places. The last point I have over here is to eliminate the friction. Has anyone heard of desire paths? Has anyone heard of that? A desire path is basically a shortcut, if you will. You'll start recognizing them when you're out in the world now that you've been introduced to the words. But a desire path is something where a sidewalk may go around, and you've got to turn to get to the front door of something. But when people have worn a path in the grass and made a shortcut, that's the desire path. It's the path of least friction. And what I encourage you to do is in your homes, create systems and create paths of the least amount of friction. Don't expect your little one to take off their jacket and open the closet door and get the hanger out and put the hang. That's a bit too much work. That may be too much work for the adults in your home. But for some time, have hooks or have a place where it's frictionless and that people can put their things exactly where they go. Have shoes were always a culprit for me. You saw my four boys, shoes were everywhere all the time. We had a system that was put in place where everyone knew where their shoes had to go. And if they didn't go there, then they might have found them outside on the porch. They might have found them somewhere else, or they didn't find them at all. But the point is frictionless systems where everything has an assigned space. And that can happen in every single room. When you take off your clothes at night to go to bed, they don't belong on the chair. Where do they belong? Put them right where they belong. Know where they go. All right. So setting the stage. Next. Oh, another video. All right. I'm going to, only because I don't want to go through the hassle of all of the things that I just did, Write this name down. If you're on TikTok or Instagram, please watch this video. It's an adorable video of a young girl. As you can see, she's probably 4 or 5. She has her belongings and she's running away from home. I don't want anybody's children to run away from home, but she's running away from home and she's sobbing and she's crying. And her mom very sweetly asks, "Where are you going? What are you doing?" And she says, "I'm running away because you asked me to clean my room." And the mom is like, "Oh, you're running away because I asked you to clean your room?" And she's like, "Yes." And she's like, "Okay, well, be safe. I love you." And, she'll go and she opens the door and she turns on the light for her little girl. Now, we're not asking anyone to do anything in the house that's going to make a child want to run away or a spouse run away or you run away from your home for that matter. But the fact of the matter is, thank you. Uh, There you go. But the fact of the matter is, it can be handled with love. All of these changes can be handled with lightness and love and with compassion. Oh, all right. I'm going to keep moving. And speaking of communication, I'm looking at the clock and we're getting close to the end. So I'm going to move a little bit quicker here. So as with any big change that we want in the family, if your family practices something like a family meeting, then you're already ahead of the game. You already have a bit of communication that's established, and that's fantastic. But setting the expectations and letting the family know that, hey guys, for our own betterment, and because I don't want to feel frustrated and resentful or angry, we're going to make a change where everybody contributes. Okay. Skipping family mantra. Family citizenship is basically what I'm talking about here. I don't know if I made up that word or that phrase, but I use it a lot. And the idea of family citizenship is that every single person in that house can contribute to making the house run smoother. And I want to be very clear to say that I don't believe that cleaning the house and keeping it decluttered and keeping it organized will solve all family problems. There are things much deeper, and I recognize that. And I recognize that there are lots of cultural things that come into play when it comes to who does what in the house, right? But the idea of communicating with your family and letting them know that, we'd like to make a change so that we can spend more time together, so that we're not all frustrated, so that we can share it, be in our home and feel secure and feel sukoon, that word that I mentioned earlier, you know, so that we can all live and feel better is a conversation worth having. Family mantras. When you guys get the handouts that I think Kelsey will be sending out later in the week or so, um, or next week actually, I have a bunch of family mantras where you can just everyone learns to repeat them over and over again to get the house kept up. If it's keep it clean, keep it serene. It's okay to let it go, or it's okay to let shit go. Either way. Or don't put it down, put it away. All of these things, if you can communicate to the family, if you can constantly, you know, talk about the importance without nagging, without yelling, just matter of factly, because this is the new way that the house operates. You'll find that when everyone is on board, when the children see the parents practicing what they preach, when everyone can stop and set up, when you back to the last slide with setting the stage, where 10 minutes at night before bed, this is what we do. We all just put the timer on and run around the house and pick up whatever needs to be picked up, and you're doing it together. It changes the whole dynamic of everything. And those kids are not just learning that keeping a house clean is important for their own life, but learning that when a family cooperates and works together, there's unity, there's security. It makes for a better family environment. And honest to goodness, like, how can you possibly expect people to be great citizens out in the world if they can't even be good family citizens in the space? Specifically talking about keeping it clean and organized. All right. And let's move on. The last thing that I always talk about with this is to patiently practice. You know, if this is something brand new that you want to introduce to your family, it's going to take time for everyone to kind of get on board. there may be certain members of the family who have been waiting for something like this and they're like, woohoo, yes, let's do it. And others who are like, oh goodness, what are we doing now? Parents, I always say, if you take the time to teach your kids and allow them to do chores, but know that if you haven't shown them how it should be done, just assume that they don't know and don't do it for them. But assume that they don't know how to load the dishwasher unless you've actually taken the time to show them how to load the dishwasher. Okay? Folding clothes, doing laundry. Yes, Brandy, releasing control, releasing perfectionism. So often I hear parents saying, ugh, they're not going to do it right. I'm just going to do it for them. No, release that perfectionism. You're not doing your family, your young ones, a service by doing everything for them. I'm outside of Philadelphia here, and Drexel University is a very, hard to get into school. Smart kids go there. And I was talking to one of the administrators there who could not believe the amount of young adults rather, who are coming into college not knowing how to do the very basics: laundry, cleaning, a microwave, operating a vacuum, for goodness sakes. It was surprising. And then, of course, and there's adulting classes that people offer, makes lots of money for them. But, the kids are having to growing up more often than not knowing how to do different basic skills. And there's a little bit of resentment that the kids have, that the young adults have, that like, hey, parents, why didn't you either let me or teach me how to do these kind of things? So patiently practicing with them, releasing the perfectionism that we have, super important. Okay. All right. We are just a few minutes away. I just have a slide or two left. Um, so yeah, I hope that you're feeling a little bit less frustrated and you are convinced that yes, you can get others on board. Claudia, you're right. There are age appropriate chore charts out there that you can download all over the place. There's a wonderful little booklet called the ADD. I wrote it down, but I don't have it in front of me. The ADD cleaning tasks, how to clean your home, and it gives you a breakdown of what day to do what and what kind of tasks need to be done. Um, Again, patiently practicing and communicating with your family, making it a light kind of thing, not a yelling and nagging sort of thing, but a family value that is just sort of matter of fact. This is how we operate, can lead to less conflict and more people getting on board. And you just remember that with the little ones, especially the young kids, you are empowering them with, I mean, we didn't even talk about executive functioning skills that they're learning by doing chores and helping around the house and just being a family citizen. I've heard, Brandy, yes, I've heard of the clutter bug method. There's lots of wonderful methods out there. Guys, there's tons of work out there. The way I do things is absolutely not the only way to do things, but the point is the most important part is to start something, to start and make the change. All right. I hope that this was of value to you. I know that I fumbled on the video a little bit, but does anyone want to unmute and maybe is there a question or two that we can try to ask, that we could try to answer if possible, if we have time in the last couple minutes? Brandy, are you able to?
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
I was just gonna say, like, I try, like, but there are so many methods, but I try to take like a little from each one,
sure.
you know? So, I mean, it's not just like one way. It's I take what I need and then I leave the rest.
Absolutely. And that's part of the whole, patiently practicing, like what method's going to work best for your family, you know?
Yeah,
Like I said, there's, I have four. I have two of my boys who are like, woohoo, let's clean. And the other two are like, oh my gosh, seriously,
absolutely not.
let
Yeah,
them clean. Yeah. So thank you
exactly.
for that. Yeah, absolutely. Danielle, did you have something?
Yes. I wanted to ask, my biggest issue is consistency in multiple areas of my life. I'm super consistent in some areas. In some areas, I'm like, And so
Hmm.
this is what I struggle with on on a daily basis. Like when I get up, I'm gonna put myself out there and say, I wouldn't say I live in clutter, but I could have a much more organized space. And I aspire to have an organized space. I grew up in a house with my mother was a hoarder.
Ah,
So I'm really, really self-conscious about that. But I do see where like I have like a lot of things, right? Um,
sure.
so I'll get up in the morning and I'll look around my house and I'll be like, okay, I don't know, drive to work. I'm like, I'm gonna clean when I get home, I'm gonna wash the dishes, I'm gonna do the laundry, I'm gonna da 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 da. Once I walk in the house after that 8, 9, 10 hour day,
Yep.
right? I'm like, I'm not doing nothing. So
Right.
my question to you is, how do we beat those after work blues, I guess, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So step two of it was to plan and prioritize.
Hmm.
If you writing down things is a super powerful tool that we maybe not, we sometimes overlook. If you write that down on Monday, well, washing the dishes is a daily task. Don't take off your shoes. Put your purse down, take off your jacket, go straight into that kitchen before you even sit down and get those dishes done. Because once you sit down, then forget about it. Then it's over. Once you take off your shoes, sometimes, then it's over, right? You have to, in your mind, say that, okay, before I get to relax, I've just got to do this. And guess what? It's only going to take a couple minutes. It's not
Hmm.
going to be a half-hour job, right? It should only take a couple minutes. Are you by yourself or do you have other people in the home with you?
Just me and my son, and
Oh,
he's actually really, really good at keeping his space clean. And whenever I ask him to do anything, he does. As a matter of fact, I don't even have to ask him to do certain things. He just does.
good. Yeah.
So he's not the issue. I am the I
No,
am
but
the
you know what?
issue.
But allow yourself some grace. You've just worked 8 hours. Maybe take turns. Maybe he gets the dishes one day, you get the dishes the next day, right? It's
Hmm.
just about communicating it and making it something that is just a matter of fact. When you said that he helps out, I want people to stop that. I want people to stop saying that my child helps out. He lives in that house.
Yeah.
You pay for that house, that space.
Hmm.
It's participating. It's not punishment. It's participation. And if we reframe it that way, it helps to get people on board. Of course, consistency is important and just you know, being caring and communicating. I go back to the same words over and over again because I think that's really what it's all about. You know, not extraordinary praises with, oh my goodness, my son did this, but thank you and move on because that's part of family citizenship. Do you know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
I hope that
Thank
helps. But
you.
don't take off those shoes and don't sit down until you get that task done. So, Amy, did you want to say something or ask?
The big thing that I learned from Fly Lady, anyways, is do not go to bed with dirty dishes, clean your sink every night, and break stuff up into 15-minute and then
Sure.
set an alarm and then have like a woohoo, and then
Yeah.
set a new alarm. But
Yeah.
I have to put it back in practice.
That's what once you make that decision, that's why I spend so much time on that decision part of it. Because just like anything else, once we decide that this is important enough, you will tend to keep at it a little bit longer. And it goes up, it's up and down, it can go up and down, but just not to let it get out of control. Give yourself that reset and start again. There's some practice out there that says if you miss something one day, fine, no problem. But don't let it happen 2 days in a row. Don't miss it 2 days in a row. Do you know what I mean? So just allow yourself the grace, allow yourself to say, okay, I missed it once. I'm going to keep at it the next time. Writing things down, guys, is super powerful, super duper powerful. Give yourself that little chore chart, if you will. All right. Assign a task to be done each day. Monday is about wiping the bathroom down. Tuesdays is vacuuming. Every single thing can have its own every single big task can have its own day to be done. And when things are cleaned all the time, then things don't need to really be deep cleaned because you're keeping it clean all the time. And when others are on board, makes it even easier.